Today on CTV News at 5, close call for a Revelstoke mountain climber in Nepal when a deadly avalanche strikes. Plus, a man wanted for armed robbery may have struck again. And hundreds line up to celebrate 100 years of the Grey Cup.
CTV News with Alicia Fieldberg.
Good afternoon. Police have arrested a 53-year-old man in connection with 2 city robberies, including one that happened earlier today. Just after 11 this morning, officers responded to a report of a robbery at Savers convenience store along the 1000 block of Mayor McGrath Drive South. The man went into the store, showed a gun, and demanded cash. No one was injured, but the suspect fled with cash and cigarettes. Police say charges are pending against a man who was taken into custody this afternoon. Edward Allen Speedle is also charged with an armed robbery at Lethbridge Pharmacy on September 19th. Speedle's facing several charges, including robbery with a firearm, pointing a firearm, and possession of a dangerous weapon. During the robbery, a man entered the pharmacy, showed a gun, and demanded cash. He fled with some money and drugs. No one was injured. Police are still investigating both robberies. A man wanted for war crimes 30 years ago has been extradited to the United States. 53-year-old Jorge Sosa was arrested while visiting family in Lethbridge in January 2011. He's wanted by the Guatemalan authorities for the alleged massacre of civilians in the village of Dos Aires during that country's civil war. The judge told the court Sosa withheld information about his military background, and he believes there's enough evidence for him to stand trial in the U.S. Lawyers in Canada were fighting his extradition because he doesn't face penalties in the United States for his alleged role in the Guatemala massacre. Medicine Hat's Special Forces Unit is cracking down on drug trafficking after finding nearly $50,000 of cocaine. The alert team arrested 2 men and a woman after searching a home in 130A 2nd Street Northeast. 27-year-old Malik Kerr, 25-year-old Maybe Yuat of no fixed address, and 32-year-old Sherry Ann King of Medicine Hat face drug charges. The men are in custody until their next court appearance. King was released. All 3 will be in court again on September 25th. For the 6th time in a week, Canada's Food Inspection Agency expanded a beef recall. Products from XL Foods started to be pulled from shelves a week ago because of possible E. coli contamination. 6 people in Alberta have become ill with E. coli, although CFIA has not officially linked their illnesses to tainted meat. The latest products to be pulled include unlabeled ground beef sold from August 24th to September 16th at grocery stores and independent shops, and medium ground beef sold at Alberta Walmart stores. The CFIA says, if in doubt, exercise caution and throw out the product. A Revelstoke man is one of 2 Canadians confirmed to be on a mountain in Nepal when an avalanche struck. The slide killed nearly a dozen people. A doctor from Quebec is listed as still missing. But Greg Hill of Revelstoke survived the slide. Shortly after the avalanche, he posted on his Facebook page that he was okay and trying to assist with the rescue and recovery. He was working with a filming company following German climbers attempting to climb the summit of Mount Manaslu in northern Nepal. It's the 8th highest peak in the world. Back in BC, Greg Hill's family woke up early looking for any news Greg was okay.
Everyone's relieved. There's a big sigh of relief. You know, my mom, who I talked to, and she talked to her sister, and they were all just expressing relief, but also grief, knowing that other families have to go through such terrible stuff.
9 are confirmed dead in the slide. A Quebec cardiologist is among the missing. Before the slide, Hill insisted on pushing on to a camp in a different location because of the avalanche hazard in the area. The decision probably saved his life. He's planning on returning home to Revelstoke this week. And Dory's in with weather. It sure doesn't feel like fall weather, but are we in for a dip in temperatures, Dory?
Well, you know, it was bound to happen. And of course, it's just a little bit of a tease of the eventual cold snap that will be moving into southern Alberta at some point, but certainly not this week. We are looking at a 24-hour period where we're seeing temperatures a little cooler. There's a chance of showers tomorrow, got a bit of a cold front coming through, but we'll be in the high 20s again come Friday, so the trend's continuing. I'll have you details in a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Dory. A very special train pulled into the station today, bringing with it both excitement and 100 years of history. The Canadian Football League's prize trophy is the Grey Cup is making its way across the country en route to the 100th playing of the championship game. Daryl Rummold reports.
They may have strong allegiances.
I raise my kids to cheer for the Riders, and if they pick another team, I might disown them later in life.
But no matter what team's colors they wear, be it BC Orange, Calgary Red, or Rider Green, they all share a common respect for Canadian football's biggest prize.
This is kind of part of my journey to the Grey Cup right here. So it's kind of nice to see this, and once I'm in Toronto for the Grey Cup, it will be even better.
Carlo Malik will follow the Grey Cup to Toronto. He's been to the big game for the past 3 seasons. Nicole Perkins will also be there. Her country duo will be performing the national anthem in Rider Village.
It's amazing. I probably will cry a few times while I'm there, and I just can't wait to see the sea of green. It's going to be great.
The Grey Cup birthday celebration began on September 7th. Since then, it's made its way across the country. It'll stop in 100 communities before the tour is through.
Growing up in Saskatchewan, the Riders were a big part of our life. We had season tickets for over 20 years, and at his age, I was at a lot of the games, so I want to make sure he's a part of the 100th Grey Cup, and hopefully he'll remember the train that came through Lethbridge Estate.
The tour is a little more special for Brett Ralph. He won a Grey Cup as a Calgary Stampeder. Now he gets to share its legacy with his family. His son Houston already looks like he could follow in his dad's footsteps.
It makes it better. You know what? I look at some of the years that I felt like we had the team to win and didn't win, and to be able to at least say that I got to play in one and win one makes the experience that much more.
The tour was designed to share the history of the game with former and current players, and especially the CFL's loyal fan base. The train will leave here and head down Highway 3 to Medicine Hat for an appearance tomorrow between 11 and 3 and arrive in Toronto on November 16th for the opening of FanFest. Daryl Rummel, CTV News, Lethbridge.
The 100th edition of the Grey Cup Championship will be played at Rogers Centre in Toronto on Sunday, November 25th. People in the north side may be affected by several planned outages this week. Tomorrow, residents in the Winston Churchill area and Thursday in the Westminster area will be without electricity. The outage will last about 7 to 8 hours while crews upgrade overhead power lines. Check out the city website for information on which homes will be affected and the outage schedule. The University of Lethbridge is facing a slight drop in enrollment this fall, but officials say they're still happy with the numbers. There are just over 8,300 students registered at the U of L campuses, which is just over 1% decrease from last year. But it's still the second highest enrollment in the past 5 years. President Mike Mann says numbers are still strong in some of the most popular programs such as nursing, new media, education, and accounting.
We're still confident that when students look at the opportunities that a university degree provides them, that they will continue to look at the post-secondary sector, and in particular universities, when they look at things like, average wage, when they look at the opportunities for career progress, these sorts of things. It's still very clear that a post-secondary degree, and in particular a university degree, provides many of those opportunities.
International students make up about 5% of the student population, with almost 100 countries represented on the U of L campus. A Lethbridge researcher says residents of Slave Lake are still recovering from the wildfire 16 months ago, and children are among those most impacted. The fire destroyed 740 homes and caused $1 billion worth of damage. University of Lethbridge professor Dr. Judith Kulig has interviewed many of the families. Based on her findings, she's recommending additional mental health services and psychological support for the community. Terry Vogt reports.
Health sciences researcher Judith Kulig has led a team of investigators who've been studying the impact of the Slave Lake fire, gathering economic, social, and health data as the community rebuilds. It's been 16 months since the fire, yet many residents are still adjusting to a new normal.
There were so many things they had to deal with in terms of insurance claims, rebuilding, getting on with their lives, and they acknowledged that they really were very busy and didn't have as much time for their children as they would have liked to have had.
And what researchers discovered is that among those suffering from post-traumatic stress are the young children, kids who are often holding their feelings inside so their parents wouldn't worry.
We can tell you right now which kids are most at risk. Young kids, 7 to 10 years old, in grades 3 to 6, who are female. And what's really interesting is that by the second time we did the school survey, which was a year after the fire, the kids that are more at risk are kids that did not lose their house in the fire. They were kids that may have been stressed because of the guilt that they experienced or what have you, but that is also a significant finding.
As a result of this study, the researchers have handed down a number of recommendations to government, communities, and families. Among them, that in disasters like this, all members of the community, even those who haven't lost homes, should be provided with the same level of access to counseling and mental health services. Terry Vogt, CTV News, Lethbridge.
Dr. Kulig recommends governments provide additional mental health services for at least 2 years after the disaster. She says it's important to provide opportunities for families to support one another through sports or music events. Attendance at the Word on the Street Festival more than doubled in its second year, with hundreds taking to the streets and sidewalks, rediscovering the spoken, sung, and written word. The Desert Wind Belly Dancers were just one of the many musical acts entertaining guests. Susan Nayoshi was one of the authors who shared stories of her work and answered questions inside the children's performance tent. The festival also included activities for kids, including face painting and street performers. Artists we spoke to say those festivals expose new audiences to their work and also inspire them.
There's always a bit of sort of friendly rivalry and that kind of stuff, and you learn what other people do, and you take a little bit of this, a little bit of that for your own work, and get inspired by the way other types of artists think about their own work. Definitely, it's very cool to be involved with something like that.
Planning has already begun for next year's event. Festival organizers for Medicine Hat's Pride Day are also planning to make next year's event bigger and better. The city's first ever Pride Festival wrapped up this weekend. The Medicine Hat Pride Association put on the family-friendly event to celebrate acceptance and diversity. They also wanted to increase resources for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in the city. Organizers say they've had an overwhelming amount of positive feedback from the community. Roughly 1,500 people attended Saturday's event. And now let's take a look at the markets.